Hi, I'm from Cake Craft World, and in today's video we're going to show you all the amazing ways that you can create these fantastic celebration bottle cakes using our PhotoCake edible images. So today we're going to be doing this amazing gin bottle. I'm going to be taking you through everything: how to order your photo image, how to personalize it, add images, change the text, and then we're going to show you how to carve it, how to crumb coat it, how to create this brilliant bottle glaze effect so it looks exactly like glass, and then all the finishing touches like adding the lid of the top and the fabric. But most importantly, you won't believe how incredibly easy it is, which you can use on all of the different cakes. So let's get started. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to use the PhotoCake edible image range available from Cake Craft World. There's a really large range of different designs to choose from, including a huge range of different bottles. So I'm going to be doing a gin bottle today, and you could go for either the blank template like this one, or you could really personalise it by adding in photos. You can change the text. So I've got a gorgeous photo of Lynn here. We've added the text in. You could change the colour, you could change the font. Really simple step-by-step instructions online. You can send the photos to us. We'll do everything for you so you can make the cake completely your own. From this, you'll then need to work out your template. So in the description below, we've got a link where you can download some different templates to use. But today, I just want to talk you through how you could make your own from your own edible image. So I'm going to work on this blank one here first. Now, when the edible image is sent to you, it will come in a nice airtight bag. Keep it in the bag, it will keep it fresh and protect it, but it'll also mean that the paper itself will stay quite moist, it won't dry out. I then place over the greaseproof paper. Now I've already done this one so that I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but you'd place it over, leave a little bit around the edge, so make the edge a tiny bit wider, and then draw on your bottle. Super easy. You see I've just folded it in half so that I've made it even. It's as easy as that. The only thing you're going to have to think about is making sure that it's going to fit onto your final board at the end. I then do my paper template, which is exactly the same, so that's going to fit on like here, and that's what I'm going to use to carve my cake with. The cake I've got here is perfect for a carved cake. I'm using the Satina Golden Delight Madeira mix, which is brilliant because it's got a crumb that's perfect for carving with. If you make something and it's too light, it's going to crumble and it's make your life a little bit difficult for yourself. So this one's brilliant. It's really nice and sturdy, tastes delicious, really light and fluffy, and could not be easier to make. All you need to do is just add water, pop it in the tin, and it's perfection. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it out. And the cake itself, when I flip it over, I'm going to cut it in half because one half will be the base and the other half will be the top. So if I just place my template over the top so I know that I'm not going to make it uneven, and then I'm just going to slice down like so. Now at the moment, obviously it's not the right height, so I'm just going to use my cake leveler to take off the excess top, and luckily I get to eat. I love eating the tops of the cake. So take this through. So to use the leveler, just make sure that you keep it dead on 90 degrees so that you don't dip it, and then you've got a perfectly even cake. Then I can butt these two together. Now you see what I don't want is this cooked edge here. So making sure that I'm not going to cut off too much to lose my cake, I'm just going to slice off this cooked edge and remove that. And this now will butt together nicely, and you'll never ever know that that join was there. So I'm going to place my template over the top, and holding it in position, I'm going to take my knife and just cut all the way around. So always try and hold the knife at straight on at 90 degrees so you don't get a sort of angle that comes in on the cake. And then the last bit I've got to do is just neaten off this edge here. So take away all of this excess, and I'm left with this perfect cake here, which is brilliant. It could not be easier. From here now, what I want to do is I just want to shape around the sides a little bit, just to make it look a little bit softer. So I'm just going to use this smaller knife here just to gently shave off these bits. So all the way round. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just taper off this neck, the bottleneck, just to make it come down a bit. So if I take the knife and I just shave off, it's easier to keep on shaving bits off than it is to try and stick the cake back on. So starting at that top bit there, just take it to the height that I'd like it to be. I'll just trim off that top there too. Okay, and just shave a bit at the bottom and shave this neck edge a little bit, and that is all it takes. So in terms of carving a cake, it really could not be any easier. So now I'm going to buttercream my cake, and I'm using the sateen frosting, vanilla frosting today. What's brilliant about this frosting is it's oil based, so it doesn't need to be refrigerated. And I don't know about you, I could not fit this cake in my fridge if I tried, even if I completely emptied it out, because it's on such a large board. So this makes it completely safe to be left out at room temperature. So I'm just going to put a little bit on the board first, and I'm going to put my gin bottle, I feel like it's going to suit it being straight on the board, a little bit on the board just to stop the cake from flying around. So I can just lift that up, and you'll feel the cake is, this mix is perfect because it stays quite solid still, so you're not worried about anything breaking. Just make sure that's central. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to coat a really thin crumb coat all the way over the cake. So it shouldn't be a thick layer. You want it to be quite thin. This is just so that the fondant or sugar paste sticks nicely around the cake. It also keeps it moist and obviously adds to taste. But if it's too thick, you're going to find that you're going to misshape what you've beautifully carved. So just a thin coating, so you'd be able to just see the crumb of the cake through the frosting. So I'm just finishing by neatening up all of my edges, so make sure that you don't have any sharp pointy bits. And one thing I want to mention, that if you wanted to add some fillings or some jams into this mix, you could split the cake before you do the crumb coat, split the cake in half and just put a layer of jam in and do exactly the same as the rest that we've done. And this now, all I'm going to do is I'll just clean down the board, and this now is ready to ice. Now we can ice our cake, and this effect is going to give you such a good bottle effect. So I've got here a mixture of aqua and white satina fondant, and I've just blended that together, so it's given me this really nice sort of pale blue colour. I'm just kneaded my paste a little bit just to soften it up, and as I'm kneading it, I'm just bringing it round into a nice smooth ball underneath, so that as I roll this out, that's going to give me a really nice professional finish. So when that's nice and ready, I can roll it out. Now our cake, I've got my cake next to me here, so it's obviously really long, so I need to get more length into it. So start there like that, and then I can roll out. So I've got roughly the right width, and now I can just keep on rolling in the length. So I'm looking to get this about 4 or 5 millimeters thick. Okay, last roll. Okay, now I've rolled this out. If I still feel it's a little bit uneven, I can just smooth it over with a smoother, but I can also smooth it really nicely when I put it onto the cake. So I'm going to roll this onto my rolling pin, so just by flipping that over, and then I can lift my cake into position. So if I turn this round, my paste is a bit wider on this side. I'm going to start with the back of the cake, so holding it there. I'm not rolling on top of the cake, I'm just allowing that to fall over into position. And now I can just smooth over the top. You could use a smoother or just your hands. Smooth on the top first, then I'm going to take the palms of my hands and just work around the edges. Be careful a little bit with a shaped cake, sometimes that you're not too firm with it, that you press into it too much. Now on the corners really easy to do. You're going to take one of your hands, so because I'm right-handed I use my left hand, I just place it underneath. I just almost spread the paste out and then I take my right hand almost like in a right angle and just tuck that into shape, and it's a really nice way of getting a good corner. So here I take my left hand underneath, just fan it out slightly, this hand just nicely cups around it. To be honest, the cake and the paste itself are just shrinking and stretching into position anyway. So all of this straight edge here is fitted on really nicely, and then this top edge here again on this angle, just fan it out and just press that around. It's really kind of done all the hard work for me. I'm just going to use my fingers just to gently tease that into position, and you can see the job's pretty much done. Now I'm just going to take my smoother, and again I'm just using the edge which has the slightly straighter edge. I'm just pressing that in to seal that cake underneath the paste, so go the whole way around. It gets a little bit tricky round on this angle here, so what I do here is I just use my fingers, but anywhere where there's a straight edge where I can press down with a smoother, I'll do that. It's just a bit tricky there because I think I'm going to knock into the cake here all the way around, and then I'm going to use my palette knife just to trim off any excess. So again, hold the knife straight on so that you don't cut into the cake. If you hold it at an angle, there you go, all the way around. So super quick, super easy. Neaten off the top. Fantastic. So that's now all iced. If you wanted to, just give it a bit more of a smooth. Make sure you're completely happy with the finish. And then I'm going to be ready to glaze the cake to give it a really nice bottle shiny effect. I'm going to start by protecting my board, so move everything out of the way, and I'm going to cover up my board with some cling film, because when I go to get my bottle effect I don't want to get any of the glaze that I'm going to use on the board. And it's just the cling film goes everywhere, but that's what we want it to do, because we want it to stick around the board and nothing else quite does the job like it. So let's just make sure that bit's covered, and then when you're happy with that, now we can create our bottle effect. So we get asked all the time at Cake Craft World how to create a really good glass effect, and we've had a bit of a play around and we've tried a few things, and this works brilliantly. So I've got this silver luster spray, and I'm just going to spritz the cake just all over, just to give it that sort of shimmery glimmer. There's nothing better than a bit of sparkle on some cake. So I'm going to take that all the way over, and already it's looking good. So it's got a nice bit of sheen to it. So next I'm going to add this edible glaze, which will give me my really good glassy effect. So just give it a good shake first. Okay, so you want to avoid getting it too wet because you don't want any drips, but just make sure it's looking as glassy as you're after. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Just give it one more go. I put a little bit on the top, but I don't need to waste my spray on because I'm going to cover it with my photos soon. And then if I just turn this around, if you fancy giving it a bit more spritz, you can always add a little bit more glitter. And now I can remove my cling film. And there's my finished bottle. Next I'm going to do my bottle lid. I've got some red fondant that I've already rolled out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut one straight line. It doesn't have to be anything perfectly straight. You don't need to use a ruler. Just cut something nice and cleanly. Then I'm going to lift this up and over to my cake where I want my lid to sort of fit. I might just take it a little bit higher. There we go. This then I just press down into place, and then exactly the same way as before, I'm just going to gently shape that top edge around. So if I swing this around, you can see how I'm just going to shape that around. So just gently, just teasing it into position. Sometimes these smaller, tighter angles like this can be a little bit trickier. So just give it a few nudges into position. But you see by not touching that top edge how much cleaner and neater it looks as well. So again, just press that in to the board. I'm going to trim that off. And then if you've got any little triangular bits like this, I find if I just tap them in, again, just to neaten all of your edges up. Then the final thing I'm going to do for the lid is just roll out a little bit more paste again and cut a thin strip. So just cutting about a finger width. Now it should stick on its own. If it doesn't, I'll just give it a little bit of a hand with some glue, but let's hope because it's quite fresh it should just stick. Just place that over like so. Tap it into position and just trim off the excess. And there's the lid. So now we are going to make our cake look incredible by using our PhotoCake image. So back to our lovely picture of Lynn. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to carefully cut around the edge of this before I attach it onto the cake. So if I just cut just outside of this red line here. Okay, I'm on the last bit. Okay, now I've finished cutting out my PhotoCake image. If my cake is still tacky with the glaze, it will just attach on naturally by itself. So I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. If not, I'll give it a helping hand with some edible glue, or maybe if you've started making your cake a little bit earlier in the day and you've come back to it, you're going to need to add a little bit of edible glue there to help it stick. So, but I'm just going to carefully peel this off, and then making sure that I've got it really nicely in position. Move it over a tiny bit. There we go. And I can just lay that on top. And I think that looks pretty spectacular for a really, really easy cake. Now you could leave your cake exactly how it is, but I want to show you one more thing to really make it look really special. So I'm going to show you how to add quite a glam decoration to the board. So we're going to cover the board in like a swathe of glamorous silky starred fabric. So I've rolled out some white fondant. I've got a textured star embossed rolling pin here, and all I'm going to do is, now that I've rolled out my paste sort of to about 3mm or so thick. I'm just going to roll this embosser, doesn't even matter if it's not perfect, over the paste just to give my star effect. You sort of put it in all sorts of different directions, because when we fold the fondant over the board it will look quite like fabric. So it doesn't really matter what shape it is, as long as you're roughly the same sort of size as the board. Now what I'm going to do is just cut this in half. If I just move one side slightly over. So you want to make sure the paste isn't too thick, because it will be hard for you to manipulate. Place this here. So now I can lift the paste up around the board. And this is great if ever you're trying to ice a board with a sort of odd shape. This is a brilliant technique to use. So you see I can just pinch the paste up and shape it around. So you want to sort of get this effect that it looks like it's fabric. Just make sure as you're going, so I'll start on this side too, make sure as you're going that you're placing that edge of the fondant up against the cake. That will be what will make it look neat. And then sometimes don't just do the pleats from the inside, you can do some pleats from the outside. If you've got curves like this, you can pull them around. And just tease it into shape. Let's put a nice swathe here. And I'm just working on any of these joins. I'm just folding over the fondant, almost like it's like fabric. Just gently folding it over. It's much easier if the fondant's not too thick. And again, the less you handle it, the better it's going to look. It's going to look much more professional. And then just to give it a really nice slick look, any edge like this, if you just take your smoother along it, it just softens it up. So there's my fully iced board, which looks really good. But a little bit of sparkle just to finish it off. So I'm going to use these edible glitter squares, and because the paste is still nice and fresh, it will just stick on its own. So I'm just going to sprinkle those over just to add that final touch of glam. And then the very last thing is the ribbon around the board. So I've put my double-sided tape on already and just peeled off the back, and I'm just going to put my ribbon all the way around. And there we have it, our fantastic gin bottle cake.